Imagine a village with fewer than 5,000 permanent residents, where the average home costs $12 million, where a single night in a hotel suite runs north of $4,000, and where the world's wealthiest families have been wintering since 1864. This is St. Moritz, a tiny alpine dot in southeastern Switzerland that somehow became the most exclusive winter playground on Earth. But here is what makes this place truly bizarre. Despite the billionaire reputation, despite the Rolls-Royces crawling down the Engadine Valley, despite the fur coats and the champagne bars at 9,000 feet, there are people who actually live here on normal budgets. Teachers, ski instructors, hotel workers, chefs, they exist in the shadow of unimaginable wealth, navigating a cost of living that would make Manhattan blush, and somehow they make it work. So, how expensive is St. Moritz, really? Who actually lives there year-round? What does daily life look like when your neighbor owns a Formula One team and your grocery bill looks like a car payment? And is there any version of this town that a regular person could afford? If you have ever been curious about the real cost of living in the most glamorous alpine village on the planet, hit subscribe right now. We cover the world's most fascinating places, breaking down what life actually costs versus what the brochures want you to believe. Turn on the bell so you never miss one. Now, let us step inside the golden bubble of St. Moritz. Number 1. The village that invented winter tourism. Before we talk money, you need to understand how a tiny mountain town with brutal winters became the playground of kings. The story starts in 1864, when a hotelier named Johannes Badroet made a bet with 4 British summer guests. He told them to come back in winter. If they did not enjoy it, he would pay their entire trip. If they loved it, they could stay as long as they wanted, free of charge. They came, they stayed until spring, and they told everyone back in London. That single bet invented Alpine winter tourism. Within a decade, the European aristocracy was flooding into St. Moritz every December. The town hosted the Winter Olympics twice, in 1928 and 1948, cementing its reputation as the most prestigious ski destination in the world. The sun logo of St. Moritz became a registered trademark, one of the few town names protected by intellectual property law. They literally trademarked their own identity. Today, St. Moritz sits at 1,856 meters above sea level in the upper Engadine Valley of the Swiss canton of Graubünden. The permanent population hovers around 5,000, but during peak winter season, that number swells to nearly 30,000. Private jets line up at the tiny Samadan airport, the highest in Europe. Helicopters shuttle guests from Zurich. The town operates like a small city for 4 months, then exhales back into village quiet. Understanding this rhythm is essential to understanding the cost of living here. St. Moritz is not one town, it is 2. The winter version, dripping in wealth and spectacle, and the shoulder season version, where the locals emerge, the prices dip slightly, and the mountains belong to the people who actually call this place home. Number 2. What housing actually costs in the Billionaire Valley? Let us start with the number that shocks everyone. The average price per square meter for residential property in St. Moritz is approximately 35,000 Swiss francs. That is roughly 39,000 US dollars per square meter. A modest 2-bedroom apartment of 70 square meters will cost you somewhere between 2.5 and 3 million francs. A proper chalet with views of the lake and the Corviglia mountain range starts at 8 million and climbs to 50 million or more for the trophy properties. But here is the catch that most people do not know. Switzerland has something called the Lex Kohler law, which heavily restricts foreign nationals from buying residential property unless they hold a Swiss residence permit. This means the ultra-wealthy foreigners who flock here every winter mostly rent, and the rental market reflects that demand. A furnished luxury apartment during peak season, December through March, rents for 20 to 40,000 francs per month. Even a modest studio in the village center will run 8 to 12,000 during winter. In summer, those same apartments drop by 40 to 50%, but they are still expensive by any global standard. For the locals who actually work here year-round, the situation is different. The municipality of Moritz and surrounding Engadin towns have built subsidized housing for essential workers. Teachers, nurses, hospitality staff, and municipal employees can access apartments at roughly 1,500 to 2,500 francs per month, still expensive by most standards, but survivable on a Swiss salary. Without these programs, the town would have no one to run the schools, plow the roads, or staff the hotels. There is also a growing trend of workers commuting from nearby towns like Pontresina, Celerina, or even down valley to Zuoz and Zernes, where rents drop by 30 to 40%. The train connections are excellent, the Swiss rail system being what it is, but the trade-off is living outside the golden circle. Number 3. The grocery bill that breaks your spirit. If housing is the first shock, groceries are the slow bleed. Switzerland is already one of the most expensive countries on earth for food. Moritz, being a remote mountain resort, adds another 20 to 30% on top of Swiss averages. A liter of milk costs about 1 franc 80 in a lowland Swiss supermarket. In Moritz, expect 2 francs 20 to 2 francs 50. A kilogram of chicken breast runs 35 to 42 francs. A simple head of lettuce, 3 to 4 francs. A bottle of decent Swiss wine, 15 to 25 francs. A dozen eggs will set you back 7 to 9 francs, depending on whether they are free-range or organic. Even a basic loaf of bread costs 4 to 5 francs. Eating at home for a single person runs between 800 and 1,200 francs per month, depending on how carefully you shop. The main grocery stores are Coop and Vogue, both located in the village. Neither is cheap. Locals learn the rhythm quickly. They stock up during trips to Chur or even across the Italian border in Chiavenna, where prices drop by half. Some families do a monthly supply run to fill their freezers with meat and bulk goods, then supplement with fresh items locally. Others join buying cooperatives with neighbors, splitting bulk orders of staples like rice, flour, and olive oil to bring the per-unit cost down. Eating out is where the numbers become almost comical. A basic lunch at a mountain restaurant, a bowl of soup, and a plate of roosti with cheese runs 35 to 50 francs. Dinner at a mid-range restaurant in the village center averages 80 to 120 francs per person without wine. At the high-end establishments, places like the Cesa Veglia or the restaurant at Badrut's Palace, you are looking at 300 to 500 francs per person easily, and that is before the sommelier approaches your table. Coffee culture exists here too, but a cappuccino costs 6 to 8 francs depending on the location. The cheapest meal in town is probably a bratwurst from the Coop takeaway counter for about 7 francs. Locals know every shortcut. They know which mountain hut serves a generous plate for under 20 francs. They know which bakery discounts bread after 4 in the afternoon. These small pieces of knowledge accumulate into survival strategies that separate those who last from those who leave after one expensive winter. Number 4. Transportation in a town built for the ultra-rich. Here is something that surprises visitors. Moritz is tiny. The village center is walkable in 15 minutes. You do not need a car for daily life if you live centrally. But most people have one anyway, because the Engadin Valley stretches long, and winter driving is a fact of life. Parking is the hidden expense. Monthly parking in the village runs between 150 and 300 francs. During peak season, daily parking for visitors costs 30 to 50 francs. Many of the luxury hotels offer valet parking, which guests pay for as part of their astronomical nightly rates. The Rhaetian Railway, one of the most scenic train systems in the world, connects Moritz to Chur and onward to Zurich. A standard ticket from Moritz to Zurich, costs about 70 francs one way, taking around 3.5 hours. With a Swiss half-fare card, which costs 185 francs per year, every ticket is cut in half. Most residents invest in this immediately. Local buses run frequently through the valley, connecting the surrounding villages. A monthly regional pass costs around 200 francs. The system is punctual, clean, and reliable, as you would expect from Switzerland. During winter months, special ski buses run circuits between the village and the various lift stations, free of charge for anyone holding a valid ski pass. This small perk saves regular skiers a surprising amount over the course of a season. One detail that catches newcomers off guard: winter tires are not just recommended, they are essentially mandatory from October through April. A set of quality winter tires runs 800 to 1,500 francs. Chains are required for certain mountain passes, and if you are caught without proper winter equipment during a storm, the fines are stiff and the judgment from locals is stiffer. Number 5. The ski pass economy and why it costs a fortune to play. You cannot talk about Street Moritz without talking about skiing. The Corviglia, Corvac, and Diavolezza ski areas together offer over 350 kilometers of groomed runs. This is world-class terrain, consistently ranked among the best in the Alps. A single-day lift pass costs 85 to 95 francs, depending on the area and season. A 6-day pass runs around 420 francs. A full season pass for all 3 areas costs approximately 2,200 francs for adults. For families, the numbers multiply painfully. A family of 4 purchasing season passes is looking at over 7,000 francs before anyone has bought a pair of gloves. But here is the local secret. If you work in the Engadine tourism industry, many employers offer subsidized or free season passes as part of compensation packages. Hotel workers, ski instructors, restaurant staff, even some retail employees receive passes or heavy discounts. This is how the working class of Street Moritz actually enjoys the mountains. Without these perks, few service workers could afford to ski in the town where they live. Ski equipment rental starts at 60 francs per day for basic gear. Buying your own, a full setup of skis, boots, poles, and helmet runs 2,000 to 4,000 francs for decent mid-range equipment. The local sports shops offer end-of-season sales in April, and savvy residents time their purchases accordingly. Ski lessons, for those who need them, cost 150 to 200 francs per hour for private instruction. Group lessons for children run about 70 francs per half day. The Swiss ski school of Street Moritz is one of the oldest in the world, operating since 1929. Number 6. Healthcare, education, and the Swiss social contract. Here is where Switzerland's reputation actually works in favor of ordinary residents. The healthcare system, while expensive, is comprehensive and accessible regardless of your income level. Health insurance in Switzerland is mandatory for all residents. Monthly premiums in Graubünden average between 350 and 450 francs per person for basic coverage. Families with children pay for each member individually, though children's premiums are lower, around 100 to 120 francs per month. The government provides subsidies for lower-income households, reducing premiums significantly for those who qualify. The nearest major hospital is in Samadan, about 10 minutes by car from St. Moritz. For specialized care, residents travel to Chur, about 2 hours by train. Emergency helicopter evacuation is covered by Riga membership, which costs about 40 francs per year for individuals, and is considered standard for anyone living in the mountains. Given the skiing, the hiking, and the general reality of mountain life, this membership is not a luxury, but a necessity that locals never let lapse. Education is public and free through secondary school. The schools in Street Moritz teach in German, with Romansh as a supplementary language, reflecting the region's unique linguistic heritage. Romansh is one of Switzerland's 4 official languages, spoken by fewer than 60,000 people nationwide, and the Engadin Valley is one of its last strongholds. Children here grow up trilingual without thinking twice about it. For those who want private international education, the Lyceum Alpinum Zuaz is about 20 minutes away, offering an IB program for boarding students at around 90,000 francs per year. Several of the world's most prestigious boarding schools sit within an hour's drive, including Institut auf dem Rosenberg and Aiglon College. For families raising children here, the quality of life is genuinely high. Kids grow up skiing before they can properly read. The air quality is exceptional. Class sizes are small. The trade-off is isolation and limited social diversity, particularly during the long winters when the valley can feel claustrophobic. Number 7. What people actually earn in the Engadin Valley. Swiss wages are famously high by global standards, and Street Moritz is no exception, though the gap between what you earn and what things cost remains real. A hotel receptionist in Street Moritz earns between 4,500 and 5,500 francs per month gross. A trained chef pulls in 6,000 to 8,000. Ski instructors, working only the winter season, earn between 5,000 and 10,000 per month, depending on certifications, language skills, and whether they teach private clients. A primary school teacher makes between 7,000 and 9,000 francs monthly. Municipal workers such as snowplow operators and maintenance crews earn between 5,000 and 7,000, with the added benefit of stable year-round employment and pension contributions. The highest paid local positions are in banking, wealth management, and luxury real estate. Private bankers, serving the ultra-high net worth clients who winter here, can earn 200,000 francs or more annually. Real estate agents specializing in trophy properties earn commission on deals worth tens of millions, meaning a single sale can fund their entire year. Seasonal workers, the backbone of Street Moritz's hospitality industry, often receive housing as part of their employment package. Hotels and restaurants provide staff apartments, usually shared, which eliminates the biggest expense. This is the primary mechanism that allows the town to function. Without employer-provided housing, the seasonal workforce would evaporate overnight. One often overlooked detail: the canton of Graubünden has relatively low taxes by Swiss standards. The combined federal, cantonal, and municipal tax rate for a single person earning 100,000 francs is approximately 20 to 22%. For the ultra-wealthy who establish formal residency, Switzerland offers lump sum taxation arrangements that make the effective rate even lower. This is one reason billionaires keep coming back. Number 8. The secret life of locals between seasons. The tourist brochures show Street Moritz in two modes: glittering winter with champagne and fur coats and frozen lake polo, and golden summer with hiking and mountain biking and sailing on the lake. But there are two other seasons nobody photographs: the mud seasons, April and November. In April, the snow melts into brown rivers that run down every street. The ski areas close, the hotels shut for renovation. The village population drops to its true core, maybe 3,000 people. The restaurants that stay open cut their hours. The streets go quiet. Dogs outnumber tourists. November is similar. The summer hikers have left. The snow has not yet fallen reliably. The town is preparing, grooming trails, testing lifts, renovating hotel suites. Construction crews work long days to finish projects before the first guests arrive in December. For year-round residents, these quiet months are precious. They are when you can actually get a table at your favorite restaurant without a reservation, when you can walk the lake without dodging selfie sticks, when the community feels like an actual community, with school events, local theater, village council meetings, and quiet dinners with neighbors. The social fabric of year-round Street Moritz is tight. Everyone knows everyone. The pharmacist knows your children's names. The bus driver waves. The baker saves your usual loaf. It is, beneath the glamour, a mountain village with mountain village dynamics, gossip included. People look out for each other during storms. They check on elderly neighbors when the power flickers. They share surplus vegetables from summer gardens. The community that tourists never see is the one that actually holds this place together when the spotlight turns off. Number 9. The cultural calendar that keeps attracting old money. St. Moritz would not survive on skiing alone. What keeps the ultra-wealthy returning year after year is a cultural calendar so exclusive it barely exists on the public internet. The white turf horse races have taken place on the frozen lake since 1807. 3 consecutive Sundays in February, thoroughbreds gallop across the ice, while spectators in floor-length coats sip Veuve Clicquot from crystal. Attendance is around 35,000 across the 3 weekends. VIP tents cost thousands to access. The Snow Polo World Cup, held every January since 1985, is the only high-goal polo tournament played on snow. Teams representing luxury brands compete on the frozen lake. The spectators are a who's who of European old money and Middle Eastern royalty. The Cresta Run, a natural ice toboggan track built in 1884, allows riders to reach speeds of 145 kilometers per hour, lying face down on a skeleton sled. Membership in the street. Moritz Tobogganing Club is by invitation only and costs around 2,000 francs annually. Women were banned until 2018. The waiting list for membership still stretches years. The Engadin Ski Marathon, held every March since 1969, draws over 14,000 cross-country skiers for a 42-kilometer race through the valley. Unlike the exclusive events above, this one is open to anyone willing to pay the entry fee of around 150 francs and survive the distance. These events create a rhythm that structures the entire winter season. Hotels price their rooms around them. Restaurants adjust their menus. The town performs for its audience, and the audience pays handsomely to watch. Number 10. The real budget breakdown for an average resident. Let us pull all of this together into an actual monthly budget for someone living in St. Moritz on a normal income. Not a billionaire, not a seasonal visitor, a real person who calls this place home 12 months a year. Take a single professional, perhaps a hotel manager or a teacher, earning 7,500 francs per month net after taxes. Here is where that money goes. Rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in the village or nearby Celerina, 1,800 to 2,200 francs. Health insurance, 400 francs. Groceries and household supplies, 900 to 1,100 francs. Transportation, including car insurance, fuel, and parking, 400 to 600 francs. Utilities, electricity, internet, phone, 200 to 300 francs. Entertainment, dining out once or twice a week, 300 to 500 francs. Savings and miscellaneous, 500 to 800 francs. Total monthly expenditure, approximately 5,000 to 6,000 francs. On a net salary of 7,500, that leaves a buffer of 1,500 to 2,500 francs for ski passes, travel, emergencies, or building savings. It is livable, it is not luxurious, and it requires discipline. For a family with 2 children and 1 working parent on a combined household income of 12,000 francs, the math gets tighter. A larger apartment pushes rent to 3,000 or more. Childcare, if needed before school age, costs 2,000 or more per month. Health insurance for the family totals over 1,000. Groceries for 4 run 1,500. The buffer shrinks to almost nothing without employer-provided benefits. This is the honest reality of living in St. Moritz on a working salary. You are surrounded by unfathomable wealth. You live in one of the most beautiful valleys on earth. Your children ski to school. Your commute is 10 minutes through mountain scenery that tourists pay thousands to photograph. But financial comfort requires careful budgeting, and the psychological weight of living among the ultra-rich, while counting francs, is a topic locals discuss quietly over beer in the off-season. Number 11. The Italian border trick and how locals actually save money. Here is something no travel guide tells you. The Italian border is 30 minutes from Street Moritz by car through the Maloggia Pass, and on the other side, prices drop by 40 to 60% on almost everything. Chiavenna, the first Italian town over the border, has supermarkets where pasta costs a third of Swiss prices, wine costs half, and fresh produce is dramatically cheaper. Many Street Moritz residents do a bi-weekly or monthly supply run across the border, filling their cars with Italian groceries, household goods, and fuel. Fuel in Italy runs about €1.70 per litre, compared to 2 francs or more in Switzerland. There is a customs allowance. Each person can bring back goods worth 300 francs per day without paying duty. Families strategically bring all members on shopping trips to multiply this allowance. Meat and dairy have specific quantity limits, but dry goods, wine, and household items flow freely within the allowance. Restaurants in Chiavenna offer 3-course lunches with wine for 20 to 30 euros per person. The same meal quality in Street Moritz would cost 3 times that. Locals joke that the best Italian restaurant in the Engadine is actually in Italy. Haircuts, dental work, eyeglasses, clothing, all significantly cheaper across the border. Some residents even maintain Italian phone plans for lower data costs, switching to Swiss coverage only when needed locally. This border arbitrage is not a secret among locals, but it rarely makes it into the glamorous portrayal of Street Moritz life. Behind the Cartier storefronts and the Maserati dealerships, ordinary residents are optimizing every franc with Italian supply runs and careful budgeting. Number 12. The future of Street Moritz and whether ordinary people can still belong. Street Moritz faces an existential question that many luxury resort towns around the world are confronting. As wealth concentrates further, as property prices climb beyond any connection to local incomes, as seasonal workers are priced out of increasingly scarce housing, can a functioning community survive inside a luxury brand? The municipality has taken steps. New construction projects include mandatory percentages of affordable housing. The cantonal government has invested in regional transportation to allow workers to live further away while still accessing employment. Some hotels have built modern staff housing complexes that resemble small apartment buildings rather than the cramped dormitories of the past. Climate change adds another layer of uncertainty. Street Moritz sits at a relatively high altitude, which protects its snow reliability compared to lower resorts. But the Engadine glaciers are retreating visibly, year by year. The frozen lake events that define the cultural calendar depend on consistent ice thickness. In recent mild winters, events have been shortened or relocated. The long-term viability of a town built entirely around winter sport and winter luxury is a question nobody in the tourist office wants to answer publicly. Yet, there are reasons for measured optimism. Summer tourism has grown steadily over the past decade, with hiking, mountain biking, and wellness drawing a different clientele between June and September. The town is diversifying, slowly, deliberately. New co-working spaces have opened to attract remote workers during the quieter months. Cultural programming now extends beyond the winter season, with music festivals and art exhibitions in July and August. The goal is to become a year-round destination rather than a 4-month spectacle. Despite all of this, Street Moritz retains a magnetism that defies pure economics. The morning light hitting the Pisbanina at 7:30 in January, the sound of horse hooves on frozen lake ice, the smell of pine resin after fresh snowfall, the way the entire valley turns purple at sunset in March. These are not things money can manufacture, and they are not things residents, rich or otherwise, take for granted. A local hotelier told me something once that stuck. He said people ask him why he stays when he could earn more in Zurich. He said he stays because every morning he opens his window and sees something that reminds him the world is larger than his problems. That is the real currency of Street Moritz. Not Swiss francs, not status, but the daily confrontation with beauty so overwhelming it forces perspective. Whether you could afford to live here depends on your profession, your willingness to budget creatively, and your tolerance for existing beside extreme wealth without participating in it. But if the mountains call to you, if the quiet of a snowbound valley in November sounds like peace rather than isolation, then Street Moritz might offer something no spreadsheet can capture. That is Street Moritz, a contradiction wrapped in cashmere, a village that trademarked its own sunshine, a place where billionaires and bus drivers share the same bakery counter at 7 in the morning, separated by everything except geography. If this breakdown surprised you, if you expected only champagne and private jets, and instead found real people navigating real budgets in an extraordinary place, then do me a favor, hit the like button, share this with someone who dreams about Alpine life, and drop a comment telling me, would you trade your current cost of living for a life surrounded by these mountains, even if it meant watching your grocery budget like a hawk? Subscribe if you want more honest breakdowns of what life actually costs in the world's most fascinating places. Next week, we are heading somewhere completely different, a place where the cost of living is a fraction of what you just heard, but the quality of life might surprise you even more. I will see you there.